Every week, there seems to be a new article saying that South Korea is doomed. Nobody's getting married, and the birth rate is abysmal. And yes, that part is true. South Korea currently holds the world's lowest birth rate at just 0.72. This is well below the average of 2 children per family needed to maintain the population. Last year, only 230,000 babies were born in South Korea, and considering that the population is about 51 million people, that's really not many babies. Additionally, South Korean women give birth for the first time at the average age of 3.6, the highest among OECD members. In 1960, Korean women had about 6 children on average. My grandma had 5, and that was just the norm back then. So what has changed so much in Korean society over the years to create this drastic shift? Before I dive into all the reasons, I must say that falling birth rates are a worldwide problem. All developed nations are facing the same issue, although nowhere is it as drastic as in Korea. Whenever this problem is brought up, I always see comments like, "Why is this a problem? The world is already overpopulated." Yes, it's true that people should be free to do what they want, and no one can force people to have children. But a significant population decrease has real consequences. An aging population needs more support than younger generations. The workforce shrinks, which leads to a drop in tax revenues, and government spending on welfare and healthcare for the elderly rises. Older people also tend to spend less than younger people, meaning reduced purchasing power in the country, which in turn slows economic momentum. There are other consequences too, like a loss of military strength, which is particularly important for us, being right next to North Korea, and a potential drop in innovation, since younger people tend to drive new ideas and businesses. In Korea, marriage and having children are more closely linked than in other parts of the world. In more progressive countries like France or Norway, it's common to have children with a partner you're not married to, but in Korea, this is still rare. In 2020, only 2.5% of children were born outside of marriage in Korea, compared to the OECD average of 40%. Having kids in Korea often means getting married. Traditional Korean weddings are heavily rooted in Confucian values, where marriage isn't just the union of 2 people, but 2 families. Back then, marriage wasn't something you just had to do. It was the most important event in a person's life, and failure to marry was considered a great misfortune. In the Joseon dynasty, women were required to marry by a certain age, and if a woman remained unmarried past 30, her father could even be punished. But in the late Joseon dynasty, Catholicism was introduced to Korea, and the concept of marrying for love rather than in an arranged marriage emerged. Back in the 50s and 60s, people usually got married literally at the age of 20, and it was always insisted on by the elders. Often the newlyweds saw each other at the wedding for the first time. Pretty wild, isn't it? In the 1990s, Korean women usually got married right after graduating from university at around 25. Today, the average age of marriage for men is 33.7 years and 31.3 years for women. One big reason for people getting married later is simply that they want to experience more in life before settling down, travel, pursue their dreams, and enjoy personal freedom. But I think the most important reason why people aren't getting married right now in Korea comes down to money. This isn't unique to Korea. Gen Z and millennials around the world are realizing that it's much harder than in their parents' generation to afford a home and support a family. In Seoul, the average cost of an apartment is around $1 million, with the average salary in Seoul being about 46 million won, around $34,000 USD. Someone would have to save 100% of their income for more than 20 years to afford an apartment. Traditionally, men were expected to provide the house for the marriage, and women were supposed to furnish it. But with today's high housing costs, most couples rely on financial help from their parents. However, this can give the parents more influence in the marriage. Many couples even break up because their parents don't approve of the person they're dating. And since parents are contributing financially, their approval becomes even more important. This is why there are matchmaking services where people go as a last resort to find a spouse before it's too late. You pay a fee and provide all sorts of personal information, family background, income, assets, debt, and then they match you up with someone they think is suitable. These services can be brutally honest, giving you a reality check about your looks, height, and income. If a couple does hit it off, marriage can happen very quickly, sometimes within 2 to 3 months. It may seem very transactional, but for some, it's a straightforward way to find a spouse that their parents approve of. Unlike in Western cultures, where surprise proposals are common, in Korea, the parents' approval is crucial before any wedding planning begins. Couples must first introduce each other to their parents in a formal meeting called sangyeon. If both sets of parents approve, then wedding preparations can start, but this is a major hurdle. and not all couples make it past this point. Only if everything goes well does the groom propose, but it's never a total surprise since the bride already knows what's coming. In Korea, marriage customs also include yeomul and yeondan, gifts exchanged between the families of the bride and groom. Yeomul is a gift from the groom to the bride, typically jewelry or a designer bag, while yeondan is a gift for the groom's parents, sometimes cash or nice gifts. However, due to the high cost of housing, many couples are choosing to skip these traditional customs. In a survey by the National Statistical Office, over 80% of young people said they were positive about non-marital cohabitation, while only 36% viewed marriage positively. The government is even considering introducing registered cohabitation, offering tax and welfare benefits similar to those for married couples. But this is controversial. Many believe it could undermine the institution of marriage. Another significant factor is the pressure of raising children in such a competitive society. Education in Korea is incredibly demanding. Students attend after-school academies and have private tutors to pass exams and get into top universities. In 2022, South Korea registered its highest tuition expenditures for private education ever, with families spending nearly $20 billion. Many parents feel that they have no choice but to do the same for their kids, and the pressure to be the perfect parent deters many from having children. To combat this, the Korean government has spent over $270 billion on policies to encourage higher birth rates, including childcare subsidies, housing support for newlyweds, and extended parental leave. Since 2022, families receive $2 million won per child, and this increases to $5 million won for twins. Seoul is even planning early morning childcare services to help parents drop their kids off before school, but it remains to be seen if these policies will have any real effect. There is also the issue of gender conflict in Korea. Men feel it's unfair that they have to serve 2 years in the military, while women get a head start in their careers. And when it comes to marriage, men are still expected to contribute more financially. On the other hand, some women are turned off by negative experiences with men, including sexual harassment or domestic abuse. The Western media often highlights this aspect, but I believe it's just one piece of the puzzle. So yes, the gender war might contribute to the falling birth rate, but I don't think it's the main reason. Falling birth rates are a global issue, and no country has yet found a way to reverse the trend. So my question for you is, how do you define romantic love? Do you believe in it, or do you think it's just a man-made concept driven by Hollywood movies? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.